Perfect. So, good morning, everyone. Nice to see you all again after a couple of weeks. Hope you found the first class informative and got you kind of into the mindset of seeing more like a professional photographer. Um, for those of you who had a chance to do the assignment, I'm not going to call out anyone, but I'll just
I'm not
put
going to call out anyone, but I'll
the
just
room.
put up the room.
How did everyone find it?
Find it.
It was
It
seeing
was
things,
seeing things,
right?
right?
Could you see? Could you see?
Could you see?
Hold on,
Hold on,
someone's got me
someone's got
on
me on
two.
two.
We've got an
We've got
echo.
an echo.
I think it may be
Maybe
You're
you're
echoing.
echoing.
Your
yeah.
echo. Is that
Is
you?
that you?
It's not
It's
me.
not me.
So, Julie
Julie
Gickus.
Gickus.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Would you mind just
Would you mind
muting
just
yourself
muting
for
yourself
one
for 1
second?
second?
Mute.
Okay, let's say now. Now there's no echo. So, Julie, have you got me coming through two devices?
No, I have you just coming through my computer.
How strange.
How strange.
Because the minute
But I
you,
can put it on mute. I can
you
put
mind
it
just
on
keeping it
mute.
on mute, that would be
That would
great.
be great.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everyone has
Otherwise,
to hear
everyone
me
has to
three
hear me
times.
3 times.
Um, Perfect. Okay, good. No echo now. Thumbs up. Everyone's got no echo. Yeah, good. Fantastic. So, yeah, good to see you all. I hope that you were able to see the lines more obviously than you were potentially before the first lesson. Plan for today, just so you know what we're going to do, is we're going to take a look at some of the pictures that people sent me, which I was very encouraged by. Some really interesting learning lessons, I think, to come from there. And then we're going to build on what we learned last time and add a few more ingredients into what goes into making a great photo. If you remember, I said creating good photography is kind of like baking a cake. Lots of different ingredients. We don't necessarily have to use all the ingredients every time we create a photo, but the more tools that I can give you, the better photographers you're going to become. And also, the more tools I give you, I always say this to groups I teach, is that my job is to not make you a clone of me. Like, I don't want to just make you see everything the way I see it. I want to give you the tools, the skill set to be able to see the world how you best like seeing it through the conduit of a camera lens. Some people like details, some people like big landscapes, some people like abstract. Like, it doesn't really matter. But my job is whatever you enjoy taking pictures of, and whether it's family, friends, pets, vacations, travel, street photography. I know when we went around the room in the first class, we had kind of a whole gamut of what everyone enjoyed taking pictures of, and it was pretty much everything. And with the phone, which I know most of you are on your iPhones, that becomes much easier because it's with you the entire time. But yeah, my job is to provide you with as many tools as I can without overloading you, to help you be able to see the picture first, because that's the hard part, is seeing it. And then with intentionality, if you remember in the first class, I talked a lot about intention, that we shouldn't just be take a picture, 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 and hope that one of them turns out. Instead, we just kind of slow down, be a bit more mindful, and be intentional. Then we don't turn into what's called spray and pray, which is I'm going to take 50 pictures and I'm going to come home and I'm going to hope one of them works. So yeah, my hope is actually what happens with groups like this is over time is you actually end up taking less pictures, but the quality of the pictures is better. Rather than try to take 100 pictures of a dog running in the grass and only 3 of them come out, and then you've got to delete all the other ones. Just before I'm just looking at Julie's cute dog, which is what made me think about that. Before I kind of dive into today, does anyone have any questions, concerns? I know I could see that a lot of you looked at the recording. Does anyone have anything that they want to ask me? No question is a silly question, before we dive into today. Isabella? You just need to unmute yourself.
Okay, I have a silly question. You told us to put the grid on, which I did,
Yeah.
and then I did something really silly, and there's a line in the middle, that isn't a grid.
It's a level. It's a level. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like it's to help you get level. If you go back into the settings and use the main settings of your phone, and you can all have a look at this. So it's a good mistake Isabella made because lots happens often. Is you'll see when you go into the settings and then when you go into camera,
yeah,
there's going to be an option to turn the grid on, which is what I wanted you to turn
right.
on. And there's also going to be an option to turn on the level.
Do we turn that off?
And we turn that off, and that's it.
Thank you.
Problem solved. The reason that's there is primarily when you take pictures of buildings. Because when you take architectural pictures or pictures of buildings, it's very important, ideally, that the camera is level. If the camera ends up being pointing up or pointing down, then what happens is your buildings look like they're leaning away from you or they're falling on top of you. They kind of look like they've been in an earthquake. So the reason that level is there is primarily for those of you who are interested in, or when you're on vacation, or if you're interested in taking pictures of any type of structure with straight lines, very important your camera is level, because if it's not level, it's going to look like it's toppling over.
Okay,
But most
thank
of the
you.
time, keep that off because it's just distracting and it's unnecessary. Good question, Isabella. Does anyone else have any questions on anything that we covered last time, or you came across in the recording, or when you were out taking your pictures? Just check. Catherine's got a question. Yeah. You just need to unmute yourself, Catherine, please. Yeah, Catherine, you're on mute. Still on mute. Down at the bottom left.
Okay.
There we go.
Um, when I was taking a photo,
Mhm.
the sun, which was behind me,
Yeah.
was shining on my camera so much that I couldn't really see what I was taking the picture of.
Okay, that's again a very common issue because if the sun is behind you, it's shining on your camera and it's really bright.
Mhm.
There's one thing you can do to help that, and I'll kind of go slowly so everyone can get this. So if you go to the settings on your camera, everyone can do this if you pick up your iPhone. Go to settings, go to display and brightness.
Okay.
Okay, and there's actually two things I'm going to get you to change here. So under display and brightness, so settings, display and brightness you'll see if you scroll about halfway down, depending on which iPhone you'll have brightness and you'll have a slider. Okay. The easy, obvious thing, and I'll show you a quicker way to do this in a minute, is you can turn the brightness up or turn the brightness down. When you're in the sun, you can turn the brightness up. By default, the iPhone doesn't have the brightness all the way up because that eats into your battery. So it has it at about 40 to 50% as default. So, and that actually, let me see if you got, well, let me find myself. If you guys can see me, a quick way of doing this is if you swipe down from the top right hand corner of your phone, you then have a brightness thing that is here that you can slide up and down. And that makes, and when you're in the sun, you just slide it up. So all I did was I just went to the top right hand corner of my phone and drew my finger quickly into the middle. Oops. Sorry, I'm trying to do it backwards. Draw my finger into the middle, and then here is the brightness slider. And Catherine, that's where you'd go. You just turn the brightness up. But while
Right,
we're all hold on, Bridget, I see you've got a question. I'll come to you in a second. While we're all there in the settings, there's actually a very important one that's relevant to photography. Underneath brightness, so you go display, settings, display and brightness. Underneath there should be something that says true tone.
right.
Okay.
Okay.
If that's not turned on, I want you to hold on, Bridget. If that's not turned on, I want you to turn it on. What that does is that theoretically solves Catherine's issue of it automatically gets brighter or darker depending on the conditions you're in. It doesn't work amazingly, but it's better than not having it on, and it saves you having to come to it. So settings, display and brightness, if it wasn't on, turn true tone on. Some of you may not have that if you've got a really older iPhone. So don't worry if you don't see it. But for those of you with like 16, 17 iPhones, you're going to see it on your phones. Bridget, sorry to keep you waiting.
Oh, no, thank you. I think you may just have answered the question because I do have an older phone. I don't see display and brightness or
It could be,
any of that.
it may just say display. So you're going to go settings, the main settings, which looks like
Yeah,
the gears,
yes,
and then look for something that says settings. Sorry, not settings, display. If you don't see it, it doesn't even matter because you still can do, even on an old phone, you still can do the trick
okay.
of pulling
I
it,
don't see it.
but you can still do the trick, Bridget, if you look at me,
Okay.
of pulling it down oops, pulling it down from here and then just adjusting the brightness. So you
Thank
don't
you.
really need that menu.
I need a new phone. Thank
Oh, not
you.
necessarily. I hate pushing news. To be honest, I always say the best. I think I told you this last time I spoke to everyone. The best camera is the 2 inches behind it. It really doesn't matter if you've got an iPhone 11 or an iPhone 14 or an iPhone 17, unless you're trying to do something very specific. 90% of the challenge is seeing better, understanding light, understanding composition, the things we covered last time, and we're going to build on that today. Someone else put up their hand and had a question. Feel free to shout out because I've got a lot of you in the room and I'm trying to see everyone. Did anyone else have a question? Isabella, you put your hand up, but I think we answered your question. Okay, you're good. Okay, perfect. So I think we are good. Okay, so yeah, that's a really good, that's a really common issue that happens on the iPhone is when the sun is behind you, especially when it's low and it's shining right into your camera, you can't really see what you're doing. With a normal conventional camera, you'd look through the camera. You don't have that luxury with the iPhone, so we just turn the brightness up. Be careful though, don't leave the brightness up the entire time because your battery will like cut by about 50% in terms of how quickly it runs out of battery. Okay, so I am going to share my screen. I'm going to make sure everyone can see it. Okay, so let me know that you can see this. I'm just going to write Carmel here. Can everyone see my writing?
Yes.
Fantastic. Good. So we're going to kind of, the way I'm going to structure today is we're going to kind of jump between looking at your photos that you sent me and then looking at some other stuff that kind of builds on the concept. So we're going to kind of toggle between the two things. I always anonymize and randomize the photos well, I don't randomize them. I have them in an order that works for me in terms of how I teach, but I purposely don't say this is Isabella's, this is Chris's, this is Iris's photo. If you'd like to say it's your photo, you feel free to, like when I ask, it's sometimes nice to hear the context of what you were doing. But yeah, let's start. This is a great place to start. So as a reminder, the theme was lines. I left it intentionally vague because I wanted to see what you did with it. You could really have like taken a picture of Catherine's glasses or the lines on the bouquet behind Bridget and her flowers. It doesn't really matter. There was tons you could do. But this is a really good start. Really good start. Very well, and let me change the color here so it's a bit more obvious. Very well done here on rule of thirds. So we've got 2/3 foreground, 1/3 sky. So on your grid, remember I told you we ideally don't want our horizons to go straight through the middle. I'm going to call on people like I did last time. So if you can unmute yourself, unmute yourself. Chris Johnson, can you remember what type of leading line, what this is called, which has really been found very well here?
Adam, I'm sorry, this is my first class.
Oh, sorry,
So
Chris.
it's okay. I'm a painter, so I kind of know about lines. I would say they're vertical.
Yeah, good. Let's see if we can help Chris out. Let's call upon Kate. Good morning, Kate.
Hello. It's
Hello.
a vanishing?
You got it. So it's a vanishing point. So this, if you remember, I said the most obvious type of leading line is I shouldn't say the most obvious. The most easy to find leading line is a vanishing point. This is a great example of a vanishing point. The easiest way to remember it's called a vanishing point is essentially it's a triangle like this. And when you turn the triangle upside down, you get a V. That's a vanishing point. They are everywhere. They're in your house, they're in your parks, they're in your garden, they're in your driveway, they're in your bedrooms. They're everywhere. You just got to know how to look for them. But here, really successfully, you got whoever took this picture has identified the leading line And what's really encouraging for me here is the leading line is taking us to a clear subject here. Now, in a perfect world, would I want the boat to be like a little bit more in the middle? Probably. And that's just a case of just timing. Lighting, fantastic here. Really well done on lighting. We've hit this golden hour. Look at the lovely golden hues that we have on the wood here. It's late, or it's either sunrise or sunset. Who took this picture? Feel free to shout out if you took it. And Judy, sunset or sunrise?
Sunrise.
Sunrise, perfect. So sun is coming up. As a reminder to everyone, usually we get the best light in the first 4 hours of the day, last 4 hours of the day. Here we're getting this beautiful golden light coming from over here, hitting here. We've actually got lines here as well. We've got these strong horizontal lines. Plus we've got the lines of the ocean. There's lots of lines going on here. Now, remembering what we did the last time, I'll ask you, Judy. There's lots of ways that you could have taken this picture. Where you are standing, I think, is very good. But you could have also come and banked yourself up against this, or banked yourself up against this, and used these as the leading line. It's just another way of doing it.
Okay.
What do you think you could have done to make the vanishing point look even bigger?
Well, I think I sent you one where I was trying to be up above,
Yeah, we'll have a
And-
look at that one in a minute.
see if I could get more ocean. I was kind of limited to what I was backing up against.
Of course.
Or down below, we were trying to change our angles from where we were.
So let's see if we can sit on one to make a leading line look bigger. I'm going to ask someone else. Let's ask Susan. I see you there. To make the leading line bigger, do you think we go higher or we go lower? Let Susan answer before someone else jumps in. Susan, you're on mute.
I think lower.
You got it. Perfect. Exactly. We change our perspective to go lower. Every time you go lower, leading lines appear more prominent. So I reckon Judy took this from about 4 foot, something around that height, I'd guess. But remember, I'm not asking you to lie on your belly in this wet dock and take a picture. You could do, and that would make the vanishing point look huge. But if you remember, this alludes to a good trick that I showed you guys last time, that if you're on your camera on your phone, I'm just getting the camera up, and your lenses are up here. If you remember, there's that trick that I told you, that if you just turn the camera upside down, and actually what happens when you turn the camera upside down is the iPhone switches it for you. It's not like you take an upside down picture. And what that gives us is an extra 6 to 8 inches of low perspective, and straight away can make the leading line look bigger. There's a whole school of photography that call themselves the ant's eye school of photography. They basically only take pictures from the ground. So they would get their iPhone like this, and if this was, they would literally put their iPhone on the ground. So the lens was like an inch from the ground. That gives you a totally different picture than what we see here. And you could have even thought about, if you would have gone lower, even coming and just forget about the ocean over here. There's interesting pictures to be had just with these interesting textures on all these lines, where there's like some leaves and some things here. There's probably an interesting picture just if Judy looks straight down, literally looked down at her feet and took a picture. More of an abstract composition of filling the frame. But this is very well done, Judy, in terms of finding the leading line, clear vanishing point, not showing me too much. Really nice. Well done for not showing me loads of sky, which is a common mistake that people do at the beginning. But this is a really good picture to kick us off on in terms of thinking about and getting us back into the mindsets of how leading lines, I'm going to define it again, a leading line is just a compositional device. Here it is, a compositional device that ideally takes us to the main focal point. Focal point is just the fancy photography word for subject. So in this case, your eye, everyone's eye kind of follows the dock up and the subject is out here. Not many people would look at this, but you've looked at it for a while now, but not many people would look at this picture and get hung up on the rock down here or get down here because of the way that the lines are taking you through the image. So nice job, Judy. Very good. Very, very
Thank
good.
you.
You're here when I always try when I go through people's pictures to find some type of constructive critique because I always think we can find something. So if I criticize anyone's photos, please take it with a pinch of salt. It's meant to ideally help you improve rather than to say you did something wrong. And in this case, it's more the fact that this picture could have been taken in 10 different ways. And I think Judy did experiment a little bit when she was here. She sent me some other pictures. But overall, excellent place to start in terms of thinking about a vanishing.
Great. Thank you.
Let's look at this one. Excellent. Look at the rule of thirds here. I could use this as a teaching example. This is great. Remember I told you this time of year in Carmel, you're going to get great sunrises and great sunsets. You're going to get clouds. Right? Usually in the Bay, I was in the Bay Area, but March, April, May, September, October, November is when you get the best colors in the sky, generally. And this, the subject is the sky. And well done, very well done, whoever took this, again, for doing 1/3, 2/3, filling the majority of the frame with this amazing sky. Now, what I also really like in this picture, and we didn't talk about this really last time, there's a big word in photography that helps to create better photos. One of my ingredients that's called scale. And scale, you probably are familiar with the word, but scale helps us to contextualize how big or small something is. Having the people in the picture here makes us realize how kind of epic and large and huge this landscape is. Without those people there, we don't necessarily have the reference point. So I could imagine whoever took this picture, someone could say to me, hey, Adam, do you think I should have taken the people out? Definitely not. I actually think that people do two things. They help to provide scale. And often when we provide scale, scale equals better story. Because here you look at this picture and you're like, wow. I mean, you go to the amazing colors in the sky, but you're like, wow, look at this, like people walking on the beach. What are they doing? Like, what's this random person running doing? There's a man walking his dog. Like, it helps to just, the more that we can look at a photo and quote unquote, read it, which basically just means analyze the photo and look at it, generally the better photograph we have. This, we had there's an element of luck in that you just got an amazing sunrise or sunset, but you've still got to compose it properly. And whoever took this, feel free to shout out if it's yours. You may not be here on the recording, but whoever took this, really, really excellent job on taking pointers. And I think having the grid on the iPhone probably really helped whoever took this because they lined up the horizon to the bottom line. You can actually see, if I'll put a grid on this so you can see. It's not exactly, but it's darn close there. But what we don't want is this. Because that feels like two photos cut in half. And you would be amazed how many pictures I see like this. So this picture could have been taken where it was like, okay, the subject is the people, not the sky. I don't think it's as interesting. I think the original one was better, but just show it. This one, the attention goes more to the people on the beach than the original crop here. But I think this is very, very well done. Really nice job, whoever took this. Even including the one thing that GCA are really keen on. If you guys start entering contests or Focus Magazine or anything, from experience of doing a lot of teaching and sitting in a lot of judging panels, I always tell people, and this is true not just for GCA, but for anything, always check the edges of your frame. A lot of the time by accident, people have someone's arm hanging in, they have half a lamppost, half a palm tree. Actually here, the kind of the perimeter of the photo down here and down here, we're going to talk about this later, is serving a purpose. It's helping to actually draw you in. But always check the edges of a frame because sometimes you'll have something on the edge that will be distracting, and GCA pick up on that the whole time. I see them disqualify images the whole time because there's, I don't know, half a bird flying in here, but it's only half the bird and someone just didn't realize it was there. So always check the edges of your frame, just a good little reminder for composition. But really well done. Very good. Very, very good. Let's look at this one.
Ooh.
This one's kind of what I said with Judy's picture when I mentioned about looking down. When we look down or when we look up, often everyone walks through the world kind of blinkered like a horse. I get so many messages and calls the whole time from people saying, I'm going to London, what should I take pictures of? Because I'm from London originally. I always say, just look up and look down. Because the amount of stuff you will miss by just walking like this, when there's amazing, interesting details up here and there's amazing, interesting details down at your feet to create interesting pictures. And this is a perfect example. Look at the line, the main leading line that whoever took this found. Anyone remember what this is called? This one? Iris?
An S.
S curve. Excellent. Good. So here's an S curve, the second type of leading line. So the S curve is there, and this, whoever designed this fountain or this water feature, this has intentionally been done. They know that the S curve helps you kind of meander your eye through. I really like the lighting on this picture. Look at the lovely color like of the stone and the water here. Again, feel free to shout out if this is your picture. But again, I can tell this is taken relatively early in the morning or relatively late in the afternoon. It's definitely not taken in the middle of the day because of all this shadowing. But a very interesting abstract picture. One thing I would say with this one is I would probably, and I'll do it for you now, is I would probably just crop out this bright bit on the top left-hand corner. Generally, you may remember I mentioned in the first class, our eyes tend to try to go to the brightest part of the picture. The brightest part of the picture we call a highlight. And here, I actually don't want the eye ending up here. I want it following the meander of the water feature. So the minute I'll do my best to kind of crop this out the minute I crop this out, so I crop it out, even there, that's better at getting you to keep your eye within that water channel. It's subtle, it's a tiny difference. I mean, that's like moving the phone 2 inches forward. But just watch out for, the fancy photography word for this, I'll just give you, so you've got, it's called a specular highlight. And generally, specular highlights are like random bright bits in your photograph, which happens when we're outside and light is reflecting and refracting off different surfaces. But specular highlights often are not wanted. They're a negative because they take the eye away from the main focal point. And here there's no obvious focal point. That doesn't matter really. The focal point is just following the beautiful like line of this water feature. But the key, whoever took this picture, the key to why this is successful is because one, you've changed your perspective. You've looked down. That's made a huge difference in how this photo looks. That's like a massive check mark from me, like well done. Two is the photographer here has filled the frame, which is a very important concept to understand. If you remember, I think I may not have told you this, but I'm going to repeat it if I did to help reinforce it. There's a great phrase in photography that says, show less, tell more. The usual inclination is, oh my goodness, there's this amazing water feature and there's succulents over there, and there's beautiful wildflowers behind it, and there's a barn over there, and there's all this stuff, and I want to show everything. Sometimes when you show everything, you actually show nothing because there's too many things to look at in the picture. As a reminder, remember I said photography is really the only art form that is all about exclusion rather than addition. Really good photography is all about what we look at this busy, chaotic world that we live in with so many interesting things. The challenge in creating good photography is distilling the complexity of the world around us. It's focusing on whatever you want to focus on and getting rid of all the noise. And again, GCA talk about this a lot. They have one theme that comes up again and again and again, which is intimate landscapes. You may have seen it. And that's encouraging you to fill the frame. The reason they're giving it to you is because they're trying to encourage you not to show everything. I'll just throw it out. The definition of an intimate landscape from GCA's perspective is any photograph where you can't see the horizon of the picture. So even if you were in your garden, you were taking a picture of some flowers and the sky, if you took pictures of the planters and the sky, that's not an intimate landscape. If you went really close, zoomed with your feet and took an interesting picture of the flowers in the pots and didn't show everything else, that's an intimate landscape. It's an interesting theme. They throw it out there a lot. But this would be this could be entered as an intimate landscape image. And again, people get thrown because they think landscape, big, show everything, huge beach scene, Bixby Bridge, like Pebble Beach Drive, want to show everything. Not necessarily. But really good. Very nice job, whoever took this. So we've already seen that we found as a group vanishing points and S-curves, which is great. Let's look at this one. Okay. Judy, this is yours again, right? Yeah. So I put this one purposely by the other one because here Judy's backed up and created a different type of picture. In fact, I'll get them up next to each other. Well done, Judy, for creating two different types of pictures here. So just shows that we have two different pictures of the same thing, but they look totally different. You could be in a different playset. This could be a different dock. What Judy has done very well on the image on the right is, yes, she's got higher, but she's taken on board something that I mentioned, that often when you shoot, especially with the wide angle lens on your camera, and if you can all actually do this, if you all pick up your cameras, your iPhones for a minute, open the camera up as if you're going to take a picture, and then at the bottom, hit where it says 0.5. Most of you will have this. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. It's just because you've got an older iPhone, but 90% of you are going to have this. And the 0.5 is a wide angle lens. That means we're getting lots in. We're seeing more. You can point around your room and you're going to see that if you look into your kitchen or your office or your bedroom or wherever you're sitting, it's going to look huge. You're going to be able to see a lot of the ceiling and you're going to be able to see a lot of the floor.
Yeah.
A great trick for landscape photography, of which this is a landscape on the right, is if you put your camera to this 0.5, this wide angle lens. So I've got it here. So here's me taking a picture of my finger. Here's my phone. And I can do it this way or I can do it this way. It doesn't make a difference. But when you are on the wide angle, if you slightly tilt your camera down like this, maybe you don't have to tilt it down at the floor, maybe by 10 to 15 degrees, then you create something called intentional distortion. What that means is the things right in front of you is going to look huge. It's going to look humongous, which is what's happened here. This is intentional distortion in that this part of the dock looks enormous. It doesn't look like that in real life. This part is not much bigger than this part. It's just camera trickery. And you'll see, I'll actually get you let me just unshare my screen for 1 second. I'm going to get you guys a good visual of this. You see this used again and again and again in landscape photography. And it's so easy with an iPhone to be able to recreate this. All you've got to do is go to 0.5 and tilt your camera down. Let me find a good, I'm going to find a good example to show you guys. Da, 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 da. Let's look. Okay, here we go. So let me reshare my screen. Okay, so if you look at this picture here, there we go. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
okay, so this picture here is a classic example of intentional distortion. This rock face or whatever it is at the foot of the photographer does not look like this. But they've tilted their camera down, and by tilting their camera down, this looks enormous, and also so does the S curve. It's a really, I'll see if I can find another one to show you. It's a really, really good trick that's very easy for me to teach. Look at this one here. So here the S curve of the sand looks bigger just because the photographer slightly tilted their camera down.
Wow.
Easy to do, you just got to remember. And it works really well when you have, in fact, here's a great example. So this is showing the difference between how a beginner would take this picture and how a pro would take this picture. Now, the lighting and everything is better on the one on the right, but mainly it's the composition. They've moved slightly to the right. The tree is not relevant. It's competing with the mountain. Just checking everyone can see this as I'm talking about it. Everyone can see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So they've just taken one step to the right. They've waited for the good light. Like 4 hours after sunrise, 4 hours before sunset, and then they've tilted their camera down on 0.5. I mean, they've probably taken this with a proper camera, but you can do this on your iPhone very, very, very easily. And you can see the difference between those two pictures is night and day. So Judy's got a question. Go for it. And sorry, Judy, just before you ask your question, I can only see on my Zoom when we have a big group like this, I can only see like 8 of you at a time. So I'm constantly flicking to make sure that I see everyone. But if you've got your hand up for more than like a minute and I don't ask you, just unmute yourself and interrupt me, please. Judy.
The photo you showed us last time of the shell with the beach in the back, did you do the same with
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll get it up actually. That's a great, where is it? Here we go. So we're talking about this picture.
Yeah.
And this picture, not quite a little bit, but this picture is more low perspective actually. This is me lying on my belly to make the shell look ginormous. And also to be able to see this in the sand. If I would have tilted my camera down on this one, the shell may have actually looked a bit strange because it would have looked distorted. Because what we're doing is we're creating what's called lens distortion, which is where things look weird, like they all kind of come in, but we're using it to our advantage.
But were you at 0.5, 0.5, do you think?
Well, yeah, I wasn't on an iPhone on this one, but yeah, I was
okay.
I was at an equivalent. Yes, I was using a wide angle lens. When you hear me talk about a wide angle lens, if this is me as the photographer, like taking a picture. Wide angle lens just means you see more of the scene.
Thank you.
Your field of view is larger. And what's great on the iPhones, depending on which iPhone you've got, but most of you are going to have on your iPhones down at the bottom, you're going to have some numbers. You're going to have 0.5, you're going to have 1. Some of you will have 2 and 4 and 8. Some of you will have 2 and 5. Some of you will have 3 and 5. It doesn't really matter. But what those different numbers are doing is 0.5 is the widest angle lens. That's great for landscapes. Really good. Or if you're trying to take a picture inside and you're in a cramped space, like if I was taking pictures of any of your homes and I was trying to sell them, the photographer would always use a wide angle lens because they want to make your kitchen look ginormous. They want to make your bedroom look massive. But primarily it's used for landscapes. The next one, which is 1, is a bit more, I was actually doing it in a different color, so this is clear, which is 1, is a bit more zoomed in. So you don't see as much on the sides, but you feel closer to the subject. This is the like everyday lens. This is I'm wandering around. I'm like, I'll call it street and travel. And what's cool, what most people don't realize with the iPhone is because you have these different, some of you will have three, some of you will have two. This is like having three different ginormous camera lenses. They're just built into your camera. So every time you go from 0.5 to 1, it's kind of like taking off a lens on a traditional camera and putting on a new lens. And I always encourage people to stick to these numbers. Some of you, the next one will be 3, or it may be 4, it may be 2, depending, but the number's going to be bigger. But I'll just use 4 as an example. This is going to be more zoomed, where you're going to see less, but you're going to be closer to the subject. And the advantage of using these lenses, these numbers, is this is what we call in photography, all of this is what we can, let me find somewhere to write this. This is called optical zoom. And I wish Apple hadn't taught people how to do this when they first brought out their iPhone, but most people with an iPhone, when they want to zoom in on something, when they see a bird in the tree, and they're like, I want to take a picture of it, you get your camera and they pinch, 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 or they pinch, pinch, pinch. The problem is when you're doing the pinch, 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 is you're using what's called digital zoom. The computer in the iPhone is kind of zooming in for you. And whenever we use digital zoom, we don't get as good a quality as when we use optical zoom, which is where the zoom is coming from the lens, not from the computer inside the iPhone. So I always tell people a great way to do this, you can just click on the numbers. You can just press them and you'll see it's like jumping between 3 different lenses. But you can also, if you take a good little trick, is when you're taking your picture, hopefully you can all see this, and if you just hold your thumb slightly above the button to take the picture and you twist it to the right and to the left, you're going to get a wheel that comes up.
Oh my gosh.
This is the proper way to zoom an iPhone.
Can you say that again?
Absolutely. So you go into your camera, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so everyone can see me on my camera, right? So I'm going to
No.
take a picture. I don't want you to pinch, pinch, pinch like that on my nose, because that's going to give you a terrible quality image in the long run. Instead, what I want you to do, and you can use your finger or your thumb, most people use their thumb, but if you just hover your thumb like over where those numbers are, and you just literally pull it left or right, you're going to see a wheel come up. That wheel is harnessing the power of the optical zoom rather than the digital zoom.
Hmm.
I used to teach workshops in Apple and at the Apple store, and when the iPhones first came out, I helped Apple do a lot of stuff with their photography. But it's crazy how many people don't know that. And just that trick alone is going to take your photography from here to here.
So fun.
Yeah. So hold on. Bridget's got a question.
Where is that circle? So I'm pressing.
So you're not going to press. So in fact, I'll make life a little bit easier. Let me just hold on. I'm going to get back to my Zoom. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to turn my blur off so you can all see me a bit better. So if I take my blur off, okay, here's my camera. Okay. I'm going to take my thumb or my finger and I'm literally just going to go like this.
Oh, I thought you were on the button.
So I'm above the button, so everyone can see I'm above the button. You can see really
Got
good
it.
now. And then I'm just
Got
going to
it.
go like this. Okay?
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay.
Very helpful.
Anyone else have difficulty finding that? Or everyone else? Isabella's got a question? Yeah.
I got it once, and then I got a sunshine box.
Okay. Just click anywhere on your phone as if you're going to take a picture. Just touch
Yeah.
on that. And then try again. The sunshine box is something different. The sunshine box is to change the exposure level.
And I've still got the sunshine box. It's very annoying. So, yeah.
Just come out the camera, like flick out of it, and then reopen the camera, and the sunshine box should disappear.
Yeah.
And then the key is that you're putting your finger just where those numbers are, and then you're just kind of almost like a semicircular movement, and you're just rolling like this over the wheel. Okay? If you
No,
can't
but I'll
find-
work on it. Don't worry.
Can't find it, don't worry, practice. You've got the recording. But I promise it's on every one of your iPhones. Everyone's got it.
Great tool.
So the key with that, if I just, I may have lost my diagram now. Let me see if I can get back my diagram that I had. No, I think I lost it. But is that you have, you don't need to see this right now, is that you have these different lenses on your camera. And actually, like the iPhone 17 just came out, and the biggest thing that they're trying to sell the iPhone 17 is that it has a equivalent of a pretty big zoom lens. If I was a traditional photographer with a traditional camera, but it's built into the iPhone, which means if you see a hummingbird on a tree and it's 30 feet away from you, you can get a pretty good close-up picture of it now with the iPhone. And this will only get better as iPhones keep improving. But the key to understand is you have to harness the power of optical zoom, not digital zoom. So everyone's in the habit of pinching. I want you to try to get out of that habit. Okay? Anyone got any questions on that? Good. Okay, let me reshare the Lightroom. And how we came to that point was we were looking at Judy's picture here, just as a reminder, and we were talking about the fact that this is a wide angle picture, 0.5, with intentional distortion, tilting the camera down. I'll just surmise a couple of really key points that come out of this. One, when you shoot with a landscape, try to use the 0.5, or at least experiment with that. You're going to see a lot more. Two is if you are using the 0.5, if this is me as the photographer, I'm going to tilt my camera slightly down, just a little bit, just a slight down, and that's going to make everything in the foreground appear huge. It emphasizes leading lines, like the picture I just showed you of the mountain. And then three is Judy could have been standing here and there could have been a seagull could have flown over here, and she was like, oh, I want to take a picture of the seagull. She's not going to pinch, pinch, pinch on the seagull. She's going to instead use the wheel or tap the numbers. Both do the same, but most people get into the habit of using the wheel. Okay?
Adam,
Yeah, hi.
I have a question. Hi.
Sure.
If you have your camera on panorama,
Yeah.
is this the same thing? It applies then too?
Kind of different. The panorama is a feature that Apple has built in to essentially enable you to, if even like in this picture, if I'm taking the picture here, I'm seeing about this much of the scene. I'm seeing about, if we do it in degrees, I'm seeing like 60 to 80 degrees of the scene. Apple has the panoramic mode, which is different, to help you ideally see all the way from over here and all the way from over here. It's kind of like looking over your left shoulder and then taking a picture where you sweep all the way around and you look over your right shoulder. What that's going to do is that's going to give you a more skinny picture. The picture's going to look like this, but it's going to give you a much wider field of view. So it's different. You can still do the intentional distortion trick with the panoramic, but just so everyone knows what Chris is referring to, if you go to your cameras and down at the bottom where it says photo, you have the ability to swipe across. There's photo, there's portrait, and there's one that says pano, panoramic. And you'll see when you look at your screen on pano, it's going to kind of look, you're going to have like an arrow that looks like this, and then you're going to have a line that looks like this. And what it wants you to do is it wants you to look all the way over your left shoulder and then press the button and just sweep around like this, and then press the button again, and it's going to take a panoramic. I'm not going to go too far down that rabbit hole today because I think it's something we'll get to as a class. It's a bit more complicated, but essentially a panoramic image. Let me find a good one for you. I'll just find one of my pictures. A panoramic image is where you are seeing almost an 180-degree field of view. So if I share this picture with you, so this was a fun panoramic I got to do. This is from the roof of Buckingham Palace.
Mm.
And you can see that I'm looking almost completely over my left shoulder and completely over my right shoulder. Our peripheral vision, like how we see as humans, I would have only seen about this when I was looking at the scene. So I'm using camera trickery to see more of the scene. I'm not going to go too far down there today. I teach whole classes just on panoramics. In fact, whole workshops and series of classes on panoramics. It's a whole big topic, but to just think about a panoramic, you're actually seeing even more than the 0.5. I like this picture. I call this picture the Queen's View because it's right above the balcony where the royal family come out. And it's just a little bit above, and it's pretty cool to be able to see what they can see in London. Anyone else got a question? Good. So let's carry on with looking at all of your photos. So lots of good. You'll see my style of teaching, how I like to teach, is I often get taken in a certain direction that I may not intend on going to, but I tie it in and I make it work with all of your photos, but hopefully give you little tidbits as we move along the way. As I say, the more skills I can give you, the better photographers you're going to become. Look at this one. This one's a really good example of filling the frame. Lots of different, this one would be good for texture as well. Lots of different lines going on. The biggest thing here is the fact that the photographer, well done, has not shown me the whole of this thing. It doesn't matter that we've cut the top off. It doesn't matter that we've cut it off down here at the bottom. The point is we get sucked right in here, which is clearly the main focal point. And very nice side lighting. Lighting's coming in. Again, this picture could have been taken in a number of different ways. You could have said, oh yeah, like I want to even go closer and I want to focus just on, I don't know, the leaf and these, like that's a picture. You could have tilted your camera. Sometimes I didn't talk about tilting your camera last time, but tilting your camera is an easy way to bring more energy and life, especially to still life pictures or floral pictures. I'm not saying this is better than the one that was sent to me. I'm just showing you that there's lots of different options. A trick that's often used in floral photography is not only to go lower, but is to tilt the camera like 10 degrees this way or 10 degrees this way, because that gives the impression of growth. It's perspective. It's just playing with perspective, but it makes it feel like the bloom is kind of coming higher and bigger and growing up because it doesn't feel so static. So tilting your cameras just a little bit this way or a little bit this way, not for a picture like this. Definitely not. We don't want to tilt our camera because then we're going to end up with a wonky horizon. So you don't want a picture that looks like that. That's going to make you feel dizzy. But on more still, I'll see if I can find another example here. So like, for example, on this picture, there's no harm with me also tilting it. I like what was done, but tilting it can kind of make it feel like there's a bit more flow and a little bit more movement. And it's simply just a little bit of camera trickery. So I always say to people, play with your angles, play with your perspective. We'll talk about this one for a second while we're here. This one, very well done, whoever took it. I'm going to ask, let's ask Karen. Karen, can you remember what's this called where the lines meet?
The node.
Good. Pretty close. You were 90% of the way there. It's called the nodal point. Excellent.
Nodal, yes.
Really good. So whoever took this has very successfully put the subject right on that nodal point. That means that, yes, we see all the interesting rock and texture and line, but most importantly, we get drawn to the really interesting sculpture face. Look at the person who had never had a photography lesson before would probably take this picture and it would look like this. Hold on. And they take it and it would look like this. maybe even like that. Compare the two. I'm not saying the one on the left is still okay, but the one on the right is more of a rule of thirds picture. Draws you in more. Also gives you more context. I actually think, to be honest, I think there's a little bit too much rock up here on the top, like on here. I'd probably, on the original one, crop it down just a hair. I'd probably just get rid of this shadowing. Again, GCA hate dark black spaces like that. Just a heads up. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I see their judges the whole time, especially when they do black and whites and things, which again we'll get onto. But they criticize this. So just taking that out, keeping this on the left. Well done for putting this on the left-hand side as well, because of the flow of the hair here. I think if this was on the right-hand side, it would feel kind of, can't really recreate it, but it would feel awkward. Who took this picture? Anyone here? No? Okay. I was just interested to know where it was or what it was.
I have a question, Eric. Can I ask a
Okay.
question?
I took it.
Oh, who was it? Shout out your name.
Susan,
Oh, hi, Susan. Susan, where is it? It's fascinating.
in France somewhere where I was hiking.
Very interesting. Very, very well. Well done for spotting it. I love the chip on the nose as well. Kind of it just adds character. Missy, you had a question.
Yeah, I find when I was practicing too, I keep looking at the nodal points and the graph and thinking like, how literal should I be in terms of matching the lines? Because I've been sort of looking at that.
It's a great question. I think I mentioned to you last time that I teach it to everyone as the rule of thirds. Because if you go away and you read up on it or you look at it on the internet, you're going to see it's called the rule of thirds. I hate that it's called the rule of thirds because in truth, there's no rules in photography. It should be called like the guideline of thirds. Photography is not a precise math. It's not like every single time we take the picture, it has to be exactly on this point. Like even if we come back to the really nice sunrise picture, you'll see that like the lines here, like the horizon is not exactly on that point. It doesn't matter. It's just the concept. It's there more as a guide, as something where you have to be like, oh my God, I have to put like the rose I'm taking a picture and it has to be right on that top right-hand nodal point. It's just use it as a guide, but feel free to kind of work around it, would be my best advice. I actually sometimes, I like this. I use the acronym ROT for rule of thirds to help people remember that it's not the be all and end all. It's especially for a group like this, where kind of most of us are just starting out on our photography journey, or we're trying to get more into it. It's a great guideline to begin with, but it's not relevant to every picture. And there's lots of other compositional things that I haven't yet taught you that are not rule of the thirds, but it's a really good place to start. Okay, good question. Anyone else got a question? Okay, good. Let's carry on. So what you'll see generally, though, as a group is you guys did really well in, oops, where'd my screen go? Did you guys just lose that? Hold on. You get it back? Everyone see okay?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So let's take a look at this one. So here we've got a really nice beach scene. We've got an S curve following us out. Now this one, I do think that the horizon is a little bit too centered, just a little bit. I also think because there's so much beach here, and the beach is not necessarily that interesting. It's pretty, but it's not that interesting. I would have been inclined when I took this picture, if I was standing here, to turn slightly to my left. Just rotate myself a little bit this way. What that would have done is that would have captured more of the sweep here and the sweep here, and it would have removed some of this foreground that I just don't think you need here. I think it's superfluous. Hopefully everyone can see that. I'll try and, even if I crop it out a little bit, like even this, I think is a stronger picture than that. That's better. Again, it's just either zooming with your feet, moving a tad. But again, I think an interesting picture. Or, do you know, it'd be a really, is this Carmel Beach? I'm not sure where you are, but
Yes, it's
Yeah.
Carmel Beach.
so if you decided to wander down onto the beach, there's also a really interesting picture to be had from almost like where these people are. You take a picture of where these people are and you shoot down the beach, you're going to have like 4 leading lines. You're going to have this one, you're going to have the ocean, you're going to have like the line of the seaweed or the kelp or whatever that is there, and you're also going to have the perimeter of the beach. Everything's going to be taking you down here. That would be a very interesting homework for those of you who can act, or you go to this beach regularly, for any of you who go there. Put it on the 0.5, put it on the wide angle lens. Stand on the beach and tilt your camera just a little bit down. And watch all the footprints in the sand, the kelp, whatever's on the beach look ginormous, leading you off with a nice S-curve into the distance. This was taken, what time of day was this taken, whoever took it? Looks more middle of the day.
I took that. I took it, Adam.
And-
It was probably taken about 9 in the morning.
Yeah, 9 in the morning. So you can see that Sally's got some really nice shadowing. So we can tell that it's taken not like if you went here at midday, you're not going to get nearly as interesting a picture. And well done for putting the sun behind you. That's definitely brought out the color and the contrast in the scene. Out of interest, did you take any other pictures, Sally, where you moved around to different spots?
Well, you know, you need to know something. If I went left on that photo, you capture houses,
So that's
the
why
houses on Carmel Beach. And
that's
it isn't interesting. I have it in I cropped that in a little bit. But the thing I did on my 16 that I had so much fun, there was a bunch of junk on the beach. So I edited out with that cleanup mode.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
And so I had more fun with that than anything. So I just got distracted with that.
That's great. And we're going to talk about editing on the iPhone, not today, but probably our next session. But to Sally's point, it depends what iPhone you've got. But on the newer iPhones, there's now like, there could be a house here. Not that there'd be a house on the beach, but if there was a house here, you could take it out, which is great. So we can really, and that good editing, like good photography, is again done with intention. And generally what we're trying to do, and what Sally did here, was get rid of the junk on the beach to make the picture cleaner, to make the picture so that the viewer's attention went more to the main focal point. So nice job doing that, and I'm glad you had fun with it. We'll definitely cover that as a group later on, but thank you for flagging that. Let's look at this one. Now this one, the camera has been tilted a little bit down. Look how the footprints look big. Here. No one in real life, no one looks like the BFG now. In fact, I can even see, I'm not sure what this is, that's a sun flare. But the camera is tilted slightly down here. Again, nice job here of finding the S-curve. In fact, there's an S-curve and a vanishing point in this photo. The one thing that I would say that just to be careful of here, and it's a good pointer for everyone, is when here's the sun up here, it's kind of just peeking into the picture. You can also see it's creating, like we call this, a lens flare. It's creating a little splot there. But like what I talked about with the picture of the water feature, with the S feature, this is a form of specular highlight. Generally, we don't want that in the picture because I don't want people's eyes getting drawn up there. I want people's eyes going down here. So you could just crop it out. Better. Also cropping out the thing on the bottom. But a trick when you actually take the picture, and you see this on your iPhone, if ever the sun is relatively low and it's coming somewhat into the phone, you'll start to see these like little like spots. If you take your iPhone and you just cup your hand over it like this and take the picture, you'll remove all that lens flare. That's why, Pete, for those of you who've shot with a traditional camera, you may be familiar with that a lot of camera lenses have, like, they call it a lens hood. It's like a thing that like goes over the lens. That's to stop this lens flare. But it's an easy trick with the iPhone. If you notice it, which you should notice it, is just And if you're right-handed, most people are right-handed, they'd hold their phone with their right hand and they just cut their left hand over it. Just make sure your fingers aren't in the picture. Sometimes that happens. This one, do I think the cars and things are a little bit distracting? Yeah, they're okay. But there's not much. Sometimes there's not much we can do about that. Another picture that like could have been had here, which would have been interesting, is to move to the right. That would have eliminated the cars and the vans, kind of like what Sally did in her other picture, where she talked about removing the houses. What about if we like sit on this stone wall and we take a picture this way, sitting on the stone wall? Just by us sitting down on the wall and taking the picture, this is going to become the really prominent leading line, taking us out to the ocean. Just an idea. That's easy to do. Sit on the stone wall, take a few pictures, get up again. But it would create a totally different picture, because I do think in this picture, there's like a dichotomy of where is the focal point? Is the focal point here, or is the focal point here? And I think it needs to be here. So I probably would have just moved 2 steps to my right here. But really well done, whoever took this, for capturing that S curve. Look at this one. This one's great. Really interesting. This one is the wider angle lens. Lovely S curve here. Nice job. Really good rule of thirds. 1/3, 2/3. We haven't put the horizon in the middle. And what I love here is everything is taking me to the lighthouse. So even though the lighthouse is small, in the grand scheme of things, that's 2% of the frame. Now you've looked at it a while, your eye will wander and you'll see down here and you'll see other stuff. But most people would get stuck here at the beginning, which is great. And I actually think a version of this picture, I really like what the photographer did here, but another version that would also be advantageous would be just that. If you wanted to make it more about the line and the lighthouse. Different type of picture. But that one, your eye really goes to the lighthouse. This one, it's more about the big booming sky and kind of the whole landscape. I think both work, but just showing you that you have options. Show of hands, who prefers the one on the left? Who prefers the one on the right? Hands up. Okay, so just about majority prefer the one on the right. An example of taking out some of the noise. But really, really well done. Whoever took this, excellent. Who was this one, please? So my reference. Okay, no, Kate, it was yours?
It was mine.
Nice job. Really good. What time of day was this, Kate?
The afternoon.
Good. And you can see we've got that late afternoon light. I can tell just from the colors of the wall and the rock, you can see it's got kind of this slightly more golden appearance than if Kate had taken this at 11 o'clock in the morning. So nice job. And one thing you could do, Kate, I'm not sure where this is, but if you go back here, a good trick that I'm actually going to talk about in a second is you could use these bars and you could frame your picture. So you could actually shoot through the bars to create something really artistic. Because these bars look kind of interesting and they look a bit like raw iron or whatever they're made of. They've got interesting light, but just getting down and shooting through the bars would give you a really interesting picture. And that alludes to something that I'm about to talk about, which I want you all to write down, which is another ingredient in our list, which is framing. And let me show you some examples of this. So let's talk about framing for 5 minutes. So framing is pretty simple. I mean, you all know how you'd frame a photograph or frame a piece of art, to draw your eye into the art. In photography, in the world, frames are everywhere. There's what's called soft frames and there's something called hard frames. I'll explain the difference in a minute. But I wanted to show you these two pictures because they're very different, but they both use a pretty obvious frame that surrounds something to help draw your eye in. Again, I'm going to do a show of hands. Who prefers the one on the left? Okay, who prefers the one on the right? Okay, so just about majority, one on the right. The reason they're different is obviously the lighting and the subject is different, and some people just prefer the natural one, and some people prefer the man-made kind of derelict building that I was in here. But the key is that number one, the frame is the subject. This is pretty, but it's a bit boring. There's nothing really there. If there was a big grizzly bear standing there, then the frame would be serving to draw us into the bear. But here, the interesting thing is this rock feature. And notice the leading line coming down here. In this one, it's kind of the frame, but also the frame is more leading us into this mysterious place that we don't really know what it is. And because of kind of the shattered glass and the lines and the texture, it's perhaps a little bit more of a storytelling picture. And the big thing with frames is frames do two main things in photography. I mean, generally in art, but in photography, which is what we're interested in for this course, frames do two things. One is they help draw the viewer into a focal point. It's why you frame art. I'm looking at Karen, and I see she's got a picture framed on her wall behind her. Bridget's got a picture framed on her wall. The reason you will frame your art is to draw your eye into the art. Here, we're being drawn into this landscape. I could have easily taken this picture, rule of thirds, just 2/3, 1/3. But arguably including the frame does a second thing. Including the frame adds context or story, kind of the same thing. Because you look at this picture and you're like, I wonder where Adam is. How's he in this random rustic cabin in the middle of nowhere? Why is there a little this picture I really like, the little hole in the frame here that kind of peeks you through. But it tells a lot more of a story and provides more context to the viewer than if I just took this. And the truth is, frames are everywhere. They can be very literal. They can be me shooting through the panes of Sally's window that I see behind where she's got a frame. They can be a doorway. You see people sometimes take pictures and they make a heart and they take a picture through their hand. It's just a form of framing. So they can be very literal, but sometimes they don't have to be a door, an arch, a window. Those all work. But I'm going to show you some other examples that help you think a little bit more out of the box of framing. Like this picture is framed. It's framed by luck, but it's still framed. The water here is creating a natural frame to draw you to the lemon. This looks like a very difficult picture, a very complex picture. It's actually very simple. It's literally a glass bowl of water. I put a pair of jeans underneath it, and I dropped a lemon in it. That's it. There's a few technical things that I added, but the setup of this picture is very simple, and I did it right by a window to make sure I had lots of light. But I had to drop this lemon in maybe 10 times to get the splash that I wanted. But in my head, I had envisaged that the splash would kind of surround the lemon, which is what it does to help draw you in. Now, there's lots of other stuff going on in this picture, movement and color and complementary colors with the blue and the yellow. But the reason I'm showing it to you here is to help you understand that this is I would describe this as a framed image. It doesn't have to be always a door or an arch or shooting through a window. Although I cannot tell you, I travel a lot for work and I'm always sitting and I'm watching people taking pictures out of the aeroplane. and no one ever includes the frame, ever. They never include the window. They hold their phone right up to the window. And I would argue that including the frame sometimes can add interest. Here we've got, I used the word last time, I'm going to remind you, but we have shadows to that's not a good pen size. Let me just make this smaller. Shadows to highlights. So you're seeing a range of light. When you see a big range of light in photography, that's called dynamic range. It means how much light your camera can see. Generally, we want a big dynamic range. The more light we see, the more interesting our photo is. But the key here is I've included the frame. Look, it's still like if I drew my grid on it, the wing of the plane is kind of on the nodal point. But just including the frame adds an element of interest. Now, a common misconception is that a frame has to go all the way around a photo. That sunset picture we looked at before, I said it was kind of framed with the bushes. This is the same. So let me ask, who haven't I asked today? Let's ask Marietta. Hello. Where does your eye go? I'll get rid of it. Where does your eye go first thing when I pull that picture up?
It first it goes to the mountains and it goes down to whatever's in the water pretty quickly.
It ends up at this like piece of driftwood or something in the middle. Now, this is not a fantastically composed picture by any means, but I think that all of our attention would get stuck somewhere here, which is interesting because, as I've taught you, usually our eye goes to the brightest part. So you think it would go to the sky, but it doesn't. And it doesn't because the image is being framed by the mountains and the reflections. Those are drawing you in to the center of the frame. So the frame, and this is an example, we call this a soft frame. A soft frame is when a frame in photography does not go all the way around. It's not really obvious. A hard frame is I'm shooting through a window. I'm shooting through a door. I'm shooting through an archway. But here, a big part of why we get the viewer's attention to where we want to get it to is the use of a soft frame. Here's another example. There was a crazy day in San Francisco about 6 years ago where unfortunately they had these terrible wildfires. But the whole of San Francisco went this like eerie orange, like bizarre color. And everyone stayed in other than every photographer I know, and we all ran out with our cameras because the lighting was so surreal. But here, notice I have not got a frame around the whole picture. The frame is just the trees here to draw you into the Golden Gate Bridge. Now, this has a lot of elements of what we've talked about into what makes a good photo. Look where the hump of the bridge is. It's 1/3 of the way up. It's not in the middle. Bonus point, can anyone spot a leading line here?
Cars.
Feel free to shout it out if you see anything. I'll give you a clue. I'll give you a clue. What did you say, Judy?
Oh, the lower edge of the bridge to me is leading right up.
Yeah, so the hump of the bridge, but there's actually in this picture,
an S curve.
there's an S curve there. That again helps draw you. Now this photo is the use of there's lots of stuff going on in this photo, the juxtaposition of the natural and the bridge and texture, and there's loads of things, but the reason I'm showing it to you here is just to help you think that a frame doesn't have to go totally around a picture. This is a very good example of a framed image, but there's no tree trunk here and there's no tree trunk here. It doesn't matter. So soft frames and hard frames, I want you to think about. Okay? Anyone have any questions on that? Actually, I'll show this slide here while we're here. And then I'll go back to your pictures. So some things just to remember for composition with what we've learned so far. First one's obvious because I've set you an assignment to get you to do it. But we're going to try and use leading lines as much as possible. We're going to look for them. A photo without a leading line, not every photo has to have one, but it really helps. We're going to look for interesting perspectives. Again, you're going to hear me driving this home to you. Remember, I said every photographer needs 4 Ps. 4 Ps. Patience, practice. Hopefully you can read my writing.
Whoops, sorry.
Perseverance, because sometimes it's hard, but that's okay. We learn from our mistakes. And perspective. If you can master those, you're a long way into becoming a better photographer. Patience, let's just wait for that 1 minute for the sun to come out behind the cloud. Practice, obvious, it comes back to, I showed you that quote from the very famous French street photographer called Henri Cartier-Bresson that says your first 10,000 photographs are your worst. We're always learning. We've always got to practice. The more you practice, the better you're going to become. Photography is a discipline where the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. If you take this class and then you don't take a picture for 2 weeks and then I see you again, you're not going to learn very much. So I cannot emphasize the importance of practice enough. Perseverance, obvious, and then perspective comes to this point that I've got up on the slide, which is that we're going to try as much as we can. I want you to try to move away from just shooting at eye level. For those of you who have kids or like grandkids or pets, remember, we want to get down to their level. We don't want to shoot them from a 6 foot, 5 foot adult level and look down on the cat or down on the dog. I want to get down to their level. I want to see straight into their eyes. Straight away creates a more captivating photograph. So look for interesting perspectives. Then the third one I've got here, which I already mentioned, but it's nice to have it here in writing, is always remember to check the edges of your frame for things that are distracting. I don't want you to take a picture of your spouse or your friend or your kid and there be a palm tree growing out of their head. Happens the whole time. Lampposts growing out of people's heads because they haven't checked the edges of their frame. I see pictures and there's an arm hanging in, there's someone's finger, and GCA hate that. The GCA judges, I think, are like trained. The first thing they look at is the edge of the frame. So just watch out on it. Again, we can always crop it out afterwards, but I'm a big proponent in why do you need to crop it out? When you crop a picture, you lose quality. For those of you that didn't know that, because it's actually quite a useful point for me to tell you. So if you imagine your iPhone, I'm just going to make something up. Your iPhone has 20 megapixels. Some of your iPhones have 10 megapixels, some of them have 20, some of them have 40. It doesn't really matter. But if this is the original photograph we took, and then we're like, I actually only want half of that, I want to crop in, we're losing 50% of our megapixels. And the more megapixels we lose, the worse quality of photograph we have. The less color we see, the less dynamic range. The trick I told you earlier about optical zoom helps with this. But the key is to try to get it right in camera. People are often a bit lazy and they're like, oh yeah, I'll just crop it out later. But the more you crop, the more quality you lose. So just be aware of that, which is why you hear me a lot say zoom with your feet. Move. Like if you want to get a closer up picture of the rose, move 4 feet closer to it. Don't take a picture and then just think I'll crop it afterwards to get a nice close up of it. Because you're just losing quality. And generally, once we drop below about 10 megapixels, the photo kind of becomes a bit unusable. So if I was like cropping in on a tiny bit here, turn a different color, tiny bit here, maybe I've only got a 2 megapixel image left. Because I'm only taking 10% of the frame. And that really is no good to me. So just something to bear in mind. Okay, good. Anyone got any questions on framing or anything to do with those compositional tips? Checking. Good. Okay, great. Let's go back and carry on our pictures. So get up the screen. Okay. Excellent. This one. I love this. We call this in photography dappled light, which is when light filters through leaves or a structure and leaves this really interesting kind of textured pattern on the floor. Obvious vanishing point. In fact, this picture is very good. This picture has 2 vanishing points because it's got, let me just find my pen up here, because it's got the path, but it's also got this. There's 2 vanishing points going on there. This undoubtedly we get, and again, this one, well done whoever took this. This one, the camera has definitely been tilted a little bit down. This is what I mean by intentional distortion. Look how big those bricks look. These bricks, I bet, are all the same size. This brick is probably the same size as this brick. But the bricks at the front look enormous. And what that does is that helps drive you into the picture. Really well done. Who took this one? This is excellent. Anyone here? Or maybe someone on the recording? Well,
I did.
Just do me a favor, call out your name just when you, who was it?
Marietta.
Marietta. Very good. Very, very good. What time of day did you take this, Marietta?
It was maybe about 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah. And really well done as well for not showing, like, again, a common thing is someone would show like what's over here and over here. Again, you could have done a trick here where you could have also taken the picture from a lower perspective. You could have, there's tons of ways you could have taken this picture, but where the light is coming from is excellent in terms of being slightly behind you, off to the side, and a really, really good line. I mean, there's lines here, there's lines here, there's lines here. This is a great one for a lines assignment. So you nailed it. Nice job. Let's look at this one.
Thank you.
Now, whoever sent me this one, I could not figure out what this was. As in, obviously I know it's a sky, but I instantly saw a person here. So I know it's like a cloud formation, but I'm not sure why it's got so much, like we call it luminosity, luminance. This is the moon, I'm guessing. Correct me if I'm wrong, whoever took this picture. But again, this picture is a very good example of being framed. So this stuff here is acting to frame you here. Now, the thing I don't like about this picture is I think there's 2 main focal points. It's, do you want to go to the moon or do you want to go to the thing that looks like a person? I would straight away would be zooming in using the wheel, and I'd probably be taking out the moon in this picture. And I'd probably have it more like that, even closer in. Because that way, the trees on the left are acting as, and the house are acting as a very natural frame to take us to this interesting, I think it's a cloud. It almost looks like a space, like a rocket, like a SpaceX launch. Who took this one? Anyone here? No, I couldn't figure it out, but it's very interesting. But hopefully you can all see that drives you there a little bit more than that.
Yes.
And this one, I think most people's eyes is going to end up trying to go up to the moon. So that's a really good example of just thinking, I always say to people, ask yourself the question just before you take the picture. Is everything in the photo serving a purpose? Do I need everything that I'm about to take a picture? And if it's there and it's A, distracting, that's the moon, or B, like, that wasn't done here, but could have been done. There could have been tons of dark space down here, just black, dark, shadowy space. That's not serving any purpose. We call that negative space. Sometimes negative space works, sometimes it doesn't, but negative space is like empty space in your photograph. But I think the newer crop that we've done here, is a big improvement
Yes.
in terms of taking us to that interesting shard of light. And really good for lines. But it does look a lot like a person. So nice job on this one. We've looked at this one already, so we'll go past this one. Let's look at this one. So this one's interesting. So this one, we're getting towards the S curve here. I probably would have moved one step to the left when I took this picture. I think one step to the left, we would have been able to see a little bit more down the road. Could have gone lower, made the road look bigger. Could have come over here and banked up against this or close to the white picket fence and seen the sweep of the fence. Tons of ways that you could have taken this picture. I really like the kid on the scooter. Well positioned, almost perfectly on the nodal point. What I don't like here is necessarily the bright sky at the top. Again, I kind of just like the moon picture we saw. I don't think we need it. So I think if I take that out, try not to lose too much. But if I take that out, your eye goes more to the kid on the scooter. Don't worry about those shards of yellow coming out of the light. We'll get to that. That's more of a technical thing. But yeah, one thing that's really interesting that I should probably share with you is the most common mistake I see when I teach groups, when I teach individuals, when I judge, unfortunately, judge a lot of photography competitions, is the want to show everything. It's one of the hardest things to master in photography is realizing what you can get rid of while still creating a good photograph. And generally, at the beginning, everyone wants to show more. Actually, the group here, when I reviewed all these pictures, I actually was pretty impressed. It wasn't too bad. Because a lot of the time, I teach groups like this, and in this picture, I'm seeing like all the sky up here, and I'm seeing a house over here, and I'm seeing a house over here, and I'm seeing tons of stuff that's just distracting from ultimately the thing here, which is the S-curve and the kid on the scooter. So again, comes back to that, ask yourself the question, do I need everything that I'm about to capture? If something isn't serving a purpose, move. Don't think I will just crop it out afterwards. Move and take the picture without it and zoom with your feet. This one's really interesting. Not sure where you are, but it looks like a fun place.
It was a tiki bar in Manhattan.
Very cool. So love this. So this is kind of interesting when we talk about framing that I talked about before. So this picture is very obviously framed. So these arches are creating a frame, drawing us through here. We've got a vanishing point. But I do think that these people here are distracting. Remember I talked about half a person? Here's half a person. This is what I was talking about. So probably, I'm not sure, Karen, whether you were standing up or sitting down in the seat when you took the picture.
Sitting down.
Yeah, I would have been tempted to just stand up and stand in the middle here and take the same picture and just and these people would have just disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would have really been looking down the tunnel, even being a little bit patient and maybe waiting for this girl to move. So you had a clear look down with like all the tiki hut and the arches. But these are what at the moment I'm kind of torn between looking over here and looking down here. And I think the picture here is looking down here. But actually, I mean, just to get you guys thinking, while Karen was here, even like taking a picture just of like this candle and like this interesting menu and how the light is just going really close up on that. That to me, I see straight away as an interesting picture. Maybe just zooming in on some of like the texture and color of the tiki hut. Forget about all of this. Just focus on the ceiling. Would have created an interesting picture here.
It was the ceiling that was the hard one. The
Yeah.
really hard
And
one.
there's always 50 different ways, if not more, that you can take the same photo. And the beauty of digital photography is it's free. The only thing you're losing is time. So I always say to people, take more, like experiment. Take one from the center, take one sitting down, take one looking up at the ceiling. While you're there, you can always delete them afterwards, but that will help you really appreciate perspective and also appreciate what you like. That's the most important thing. So what resonates with you? Is it the small details? Is it the symmetry? Is it the framing? Is it that you just really like purple and you love this picture because everything's purple? Maybe that's the case. But the more you experiment when you are in these different shooting scenarios, the more you will learn what strikes a chord with you. And I don't know whether we'll have enough sessions to find this out with this group, but often what happens, and it's really interesting, is after a couple of sessions, I can tell, and I'm like, that's Iris's picture, that's Chris's picture, that's Karen's picture, that's Bridget's picture, without you telling me, because I start to kind of see how you all see the world slightly differently. See kind of commonalities, and developing that style for yourself is very important. But the only way to do that is to practice. But really nice job on this one. Let's look at the next one. This one's really interesting. So good. This is taking the theme and thinking really interesting. And like, here's lines. Here's lines. Even there's really, look at the lines on the rock face. Look at like this like erosion that's created all this texture and pattern. And the way that this has been taken, let me ask someone, let's ask Julie. Hey, Julie, if you want to unmute yourself. Hopefully you don't get my echo.
Are we going to get feedback?
I'll be quiet. I'll just ask you one question. Where's your eye go?
Initially, it went to the bottom right of the rock. The curve in that rock just caught my eye.
Okay, mute me. Let's ask Catherine. Catherine, where does your eye go here? You're on mute.
My eye first went to the bright at the top left.
Yeah, the highlight. I think the focal point here where we want to eventually get to is probably up here. And this is a great picture for me to help you understand one thing that I hadn't taught you last time, but was very much on my list today, is you can see how sharp the water looks here. It's very crisp. In fact, the whole picture looks very crisp. The iPhone has increasingly become better and better. I'm going to actually just unshare my screen for a sec so you can all see me big. The iPhone has become better and better and better at helping us focus. And what most people don't realize is they go and they just take a picture and they go, take a picture, take a picture, take a picture, take a picture. One tip is if you tap on your screen, you're going to get a yellow square. Ignore the sunshine thing on it. You're just going to get a yellow square. That is you telling the camera where you want the sharpest point of the photo to be. That really helps with the rule of thirds, because maybe you want to take a picture of my hand over here and you want my hand in focus. You just tap on the screen and it's going to make my hand the sharpest bit of the picture. So that's step number one. That's easy. Most people know that. It's called tap to focus. Where I kind of want to push you one step further is we're going to do the same thing, but here I'm going to focus on me. But rather than just tap like that, I'll show you with my finger. I'm going to push 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to let go. And what happens when you do that, if you look here, I go 1, 2, 3. Then my my square goes almost like a solid yellow. It like kicks into a solid. You just go 1, 2, 3, let go. Find something in your room that you can focus on. And you're going to see at the top, it says AEAF lock.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the AE for the time being, but the AF means auto focus lock. This is you telling the iPhone, This is you taking control, more control than you maybe had before. This is you telling the iPhone, I want to focus on wherever I have tapped my finger. And until I tell you otherwise, don't lose the focus there. So if I focus on a boat out in the ocean, or if I focus on the Bixby Bridge, or I focus on that interesting face in the rocks, I'm 1, 2, 3. I can then move around it, change my perspective, but the camera knows that that's always the thing that it's got to keep the sharpest in the picture.
Wow.
The technique is called focus locking. And again, not many people know about that. It's really easy. It's a super simple trick. But really, almost like if you wanted to take a still life of a sunflower or a rose, or you went out in the garden, you should be going 1, 2, 3 on the rose, let go, and then taking your pictures.
Yeah.
You are thus guaranteeing that your main subject will be sharp.
And that's for just this picture. It's not for the following pictures.
No, just for the picture you're taking.
That one.
Yeah, good. And to get out of it, because sometimes people get stuck in it. So if I go, oh no, I've turned my camera around the wrong way. So to get out of it, so you go 1, 2, 3, and it goes solid. And then you just tap anywhere else on the screen. And the minute you tap somewhere else, you're just basically starting again. You're just resetting.
So, may I ask a question?
Yeah, hey, Chris.
Hi. So the camera is remembering the subject, not the place on the lens, right?
True. Correct. Exactly. But obviously, if you move that subject and it was no longer in the picture, the camera's not going to know what's going on.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, where this is really helpful is it ties very much into composition that we've talked about. If you decide I want this orange to be on the top left of my picture, or the bottom right, or up here, if you take a picture without tapping and I was in it and the orange was in it, the camera's just going to guess what the sharpest thing is, and it usually goes to the brightest thing. But if you want to definitively say, hey, this is my subject, 1, 2, 3, tap, solid yellow square, AF lock, then you take your pictures.
Cool.
Practice with it. It's a really good trick. Okay. Hopefully you all managed to find that. But this photo I had purposely queued up to show you that, because I thought, let me get back the waterfall picture, because the focus here is very sharp. Very sharp. So nice job on this one, whoever took this one. Now these ones, they're actually, I can't remember who sent me these, but you sent me 2 of them, and there were 2 like older, interesting photos. I'm going to put them up alongside each other. Look at the use of line and light in these. Particularly the one on the lighting is excellent on the one on the left with the kind of this ethereal backlighting, but the one on the right, when it comes to the theme of lines, is excellent. Look at the intentional distortion. Look how the camera has been tilted slightly down to make the foreground look huge. Look how the perspective is slightly lower. Look how we clearly get sucked in this picture on the right. We just follow the path. It's an S-curve taking us through the frame. Again, interestingly, when whoever asked about how kind of prescriptive you need to be with the rule of thirds, if I put my grid on this one, you'll see that it's not right on the rule of thirds. In fact, the foreground takes up almost the entirety of the picture. That's okay. The key is I just don't want it in the middle. I don't want a picture like that. I mean, actually, that's okay because it's more abstract, but there's lots of interesting things you could do with this. Now it almost looks like a rock formation. You wouldn't even know it was a road. But nice job in showing me the lines there. Let's look at this one. Really interesting. Very good use of changing perspective. Maybe on this one, I don't need so much of what's here on the right. Maybe I make the picture more about this almost like fan-like structure that's coming out. Just take out a little bit. I also think this picture would look really interesting if you turned the camera. If you purely tilted it, let me show you. Like this. Oops, sorry. There we go. So I think you can play with this picture. Even this way. Maybe now if it's upside down, I'm like, okay, I don't even want that greenery up there. I just want this. Just playing around, just showing you that there's no real rules. But this is a very good, again, a very good lines assignment. Love all the kind of converging lines, texture. Very, very good. Back to the pier again. Different perspective again. This one really talks about the lighting. Look how lovely that early morning light is on the side of the bridge. It's beautiful. Do we need all the sky here? Not sure. Maybe, but sometimes empty blue sky can be boring. So one option here is we could have done that.
I like that.
Because the blue sky was, when we have clouds, it's more interesting, but empty blue sky can sometimes be a bit boring. But this is a real storytelling picture. You look at this and you think, where is that person? This is an interesting dot. A lot of it is to do with the good lighting, but a lot of it is to do with the composition. And well done, change your perspective as well. Iris, do you think the photographer, when they took this, do you think they were high or low?
I think low.
Yeah, they were low. You got it. So look how big the structure looks. The pier looks huge. It looks like this big, imposing, big wall. It's not that big in real life. It's probably you're like 4 foot, 3 foot tall. But changing the perspective here has made a big difference. So we've got lots of the ingredients of the cake that we've discussed so far. Ingredients being lighting, perspective, rule of thirds, tons of things, lines, tons of things here going on. So really well done. Let's look at this one. Always amazes me, I teach so many garden clubs, how many people don't send me pictures of flowers, which is a good thing because I want to make you all more well-rounded than just people who take photos of flowers. But this is a lovely photo to look at. And this, a perfect example of the 1, 2, 3 tap to focus. This would be a great example where I would want to use that, tap right in the middle here and make sure that this is really nice and sharp. There's a lot of symmetry going on here. That's something I'm going to talk about more in the next class. But again, I really like how it's been put against some type of velvet background. But there's an interesting photo probably to be had here if you go like much closer. Like there's an interesting picture. Do we even need the background? And there's tons of ways I could take this. I could come over here. Like there's an interesting picture. Now, it is interesting with the background, but I want to encourage you all to fill the frame and think about how you, with one, even changing your angle here and coming on it a bit more of like an acute angle, kind of shooting across the flower rather than straight at it, would have created something also equally interesting. But very good, whoever took this. Very good for line, very good for texture.
This.
Same on this one. Look at this one. Lots of line. Notice the frame. This is a hard frame, helping draw your eye out into this lovely landscape. Now, if this was me, I think there's probably a little bit too much. Like this is distracting. There's a stroller. There's a stroller here. Like that stroller doesn't need to be in the picture. So I'd either move it or I would move. And I think whoever took this, if you would have moved to the other side of this couch, this sofa, and taken the same picture out the window, you would have had a cleaner picture without some of this stuff down here, which is a little bit distracting. But this would be a very good, if I gave the assignment of frames, this would be a good one, but it's also tons of lines. And what you'll see as you practice and practice and practice, you're just going to find more and more lines everywhere. Look at this one. This was very good. First person, only one person sent me a picture of people, but there's an S curve. Here's our main subject. We'd 1, 2, 3, hold on him, make sure he's sharp. The way the light is coming in here is very nice. Again, watch the edges of your frame. Like GCA would hate this. Don't need it. Just move. It's literally moving like an inch to your right. Takes that stuff out. Nicely positioned there in a real and a real storytelling picture. I'm like, what are these guys doing? Like, where are they? Why are they just wandering up? Are they in a winery? Are they in a winery? The guy looks like he's holding some like a glass of beer. I'm not sure what they're doing. But again, like one thing you could have done if you wanted to be creative. What about if we got this guy to sit down on the steps and we shot through the pillars at him?
Oh, yeah.
Just an idea. What happens if we actually got all of these guys to stand like along this banister and we went and stood at the bottom of the banister, banked ourselves up against it and used the banister as a vanishing point? Lots of different ways you could take this. But nice, I like seeing diversity, and this one is definitely a diverse photo in terms of genre. Well done. Look at this one. Is the person who took this here on this one? This one's really interesting because this one is really filling the frame. I have no idea what that is. No idea. But it's a good lines picture. Again, this one could have been rotated. And then remember, repetition is a big thing in photography. Repetitive lines, repetitive pattern. Here's a really good example of it. And again, I don't know, that could be the floor of someone's home. That could be a metal grate. I've got no idea. But just the way the light's hitting it and the fact that we have filled the frame makes me ask those questions. So nice job. Same here. This one's great. Well done for putting the man over on the left. He's not perfectly on the rule of thirds, but it doesn't matter. He's looking into the negative space. The lounges and everything help take us out there as well. Do we need the lounges? Not sure. Maybe I would have been tempted to take the same picture and said to the man, can you, in fact, I don't know if there was room, but maybe I would have gone and stood here just to eliminate these, because I think this is a cleaner picture, just with him and this beautiful sunset. But well done for offsetting to the left. Offsetting to the left. By offsetting to the left, I mean putting the subject, the man, off to the left. If he was here, underneath the sunset, this would not be nearly as effective a picture. Classic Carmel fog on this one. This one we've looked at already. This one, another use of this one is framed. This one has a soft frame around it. Look at the bottom. Beautiful sunset. Look at that, almost smack bang on the nodal point, the color. Very, very good. 1/3 foreground, 2/3 sky. The sky is the subject here. The drama, the majesty of the photo is the color. Look at that. Look how the light hits. Remember I told you when the sun goes down, if you do a sunset, don't leave the minute the sun drops below the horizon. Stay for 10 minutes because that's when the magic happens. That's when you get all this color and light and refraction. But really good, this one. I don't know whether this is necessarily a lines assignment, if I'm being really harsh. If I was a judge and this was being entered into a lines competition, it's loose, but it's an excellent landscape photo. And it does work to show that whoever took this is learning and is thinking about the rule of thirds and composition and what the main subject is. So nice job. Look at the next one. Here's another frame. A lot of you started looking for frames. Now this one is wonky. This one I wish I'd straighten it up a little bit, just like that. I'd also be tempted, this one has a lot of layering to it. You go kind of through the picketed fence, through to the door, you see the archway. I kind of wish I saw the archway on the other side here.
Yeah.
I think it would help with the symmetry. This feels a little bit clunky in terms of how it's been cut off. I mean, I could maybe make it like that. It's also kind of interesting. But this one, and as I say, symmetry is something we're going to talk about next time. But this one, I kind of just feel like actually it's the first one in the set that we reviewed today where I'd want to show a little bit more. Just a little bit more on the right-hand side. But it's a really good spot and a really nice find. And definitely lines. Look at this one.
Oh, beauty.
Really nice.
Nice.
Again, time of day makes a big difference with the lighting. Beautiful clouds converging here, coming down here. Lovely color. my one critique here is there's something in photography that we hate. We don't hate, but we try to just avoid, called bullseye composition. Which if ever any of you have played darts, is putting your subject right in the middle.
Yeah.
The sun maybe here is just a little bit too much in the middle. Again, me being really nitpicky, but that's my job. I would probably offset the whole thing more. I haven't quite got enough room to do it here. But you essentially would have just taken one step to your left. I need this to go more to the right. This should be over here.
Okay.
Is this yours, Iris?
Yeah.
Beautiful photo. Sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
Yeah, stunning. Excellent capture. Really very well done. Just try and move that subject just a little bit more offset from center. But an excellent photo. Again, another thing you could have done here, Iris, is you could have gone low and just focused on the reflections. You could have almost totally ignored this and just taken a picture just of the water on the beach and the reflections of the cloud and the color. That would have looked very impressionist in terms of what would have come out.
I wouldn't have thought of that.
Just to give you some ideas for next time you're there. This one we've looked at. Look at this one. Definite vanishing point going on here. Symmetry and balance. Again, this picture is framed. That's framing. Drawing me in. It's not going all the way around the picture, but we've got framing and vanishing points working to take us to the end of the picture. There's a lot of symmetry in this picture as well. Oops. Almost looks like we put a mirror down the middle. Now I'm going to do sorry if your pictures are at the end here. I'm going to try and whip through these in the time that we have left just to make sure I don't leave anyone out. S-curve, really. This one's actually excellent because this one I feel strikes a good balance of not showing too much, but showing enough, like it doesn't show me what's beyond the seawall. It shows me enough to really help create these lines. This is again offset on the left. Excellent. This is not in the middle. If it was in the middle, it would look weird. But you all really picked up on rule of thirds. This one is, whoever mentioned to me at the beginning about the level, I think it was Isabella. This one, can you see how the pier is looks like it's a bit wonky? See how it looks like it's about to fall over? That's just because the camera's not straight. So don't worry about that. That's called parallax error, but in this picture, I think I would have made a decision. Is the picture me standing under the pier and looking straight through it, creating a vanishing point? Or is the picture without the pier? I feel like this picture is a little bit where I'm being drawn between this and this. And they're both nice, and I love the wave here and the line, but I feel like I almost would take this, like that's a picture in itself. I feel like the pier is just acting as a distraction. There's a picture. But also there's a picture here, I just need to move under the pier. So just hopefully I'm giving you ideas of different things that you can do. Look at this one. This one's all about lighting. Great light coming from behind the photographer, creating these really interesting shadows, definite lines. One thing photographer could have done here. What happens if you went and stood right next to this? If you could get there, it looks like there's someone standing there, and you look straight up. That would have created a really interesting picture. What happens if we use the new thing that we've learned today about optical zoom rather than digital zoom, and we just came in on this? No one's going to have a clue what it is, but it's interesting. So lots and lots of different ways to be able to capture the same thing. This one's lovely, although this one, I think against the castle, this looks like it's in England somewhere. The castle is a little bit too much in the middle. I'd move that to there. Subtle difference, excuse me, but makes a difference. There, I just think there's a little bit too much sky. That's more rule of thirds. Look at the S-curve taking us through to the castle. Low perspective. Well done, whoever took this one. Excellent. Got low. It's even framed a bit by the trees, but there's no doubt when you look at this picture that the focal point is the castle. So really good. And last but not least, this one. Beautiful landscape, lovely color from the sun is coming from behind. Interesting cloud. Look where the horizon is here. It's almost perfect. 2/3, 1/3. Really, again here, like if this was me, my wife would shower at me, but I would have probably got in the stream here and got my feet wet to take the picture. To really pull out that leading line. But it's a really, really, really excellent capture. So really everyone generally if I missed your picture for some reason, if it wasn't here, just please email me. I tried to capture everyone's, but some people sent them to me very late in the day and hopefully I got them into the presentation. If I didn't, just email me. I'll make sure I give you some feedback via email. But generally as a group, I'm really impressed. This was excellent. This was a really strong set of pictures for first time round. So here's your homework. Okay. So your homework this time, again, it's going to be intentionally vague. Your homework is details. In fact, I can make it a little bit even more broad. I'm going to say details, big and small. Again, if you can send me the photos. Our next class is, let me just triple check the diary. So our next class is on the 20th, Monday the 20th, same time, 9 to 11. Please, if you can, try not to send them to me the morning of the class. It just makes my life a little bit harder. So if you can get them to me at least 24 hours before, that really helps me being able to formulate them. Does anyone have any questions?
I do.
Hey, Chris.
I do. So in the same photo, are we to have big and small details, or could we?
Whatever you want. I actually don't.
Okay.
I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give it away. I want you to interpret.
We could do big or small.
You got it. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Big and small, or big or small? Iris, question.
I wanted to know, what is your preferred hour to do a landscape photography?
Great question. So usually, if in an ideal scenario, first 2 hours after sunrise, last 2 hours before sunset. That's your peak. That's your goal. And then just after sunset or just before sunrise, that's when you're going to get your peak. If you go at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you're not going to get it. You actually did an excellent job, Iris. That picture you took of that was right on the perfect optimal time.
Thank you.
Okay, Catherine.
When we send you the photos, there's a setting that says actual or small or medium.
Great question. Send them to me as actual size, original size. If you send them as small or medium, then when I show them, they're really small because Apple or PC, whatever you're sending them on, will compress them. So original size. Good question. Okay, I'm gonna
question from Julie. Adam, I sent my photos to you day before yesterday. I'm just wondering if I've got the email address that we were given.
Let me check. I'm gonna write it down, Julie, and I will revert back on email to you. If I haven't got them, I will message you, and I've got your email, and I'll tell you I didn't get them. If I miss them, apologies, but I will make sure I give you the feedback via email. Isabella.
Same. I sent mine on Wednesday.
Okay.
So I will resend them now, but yeah.
Yeah. In fact, Julie, can you resend yours as well, please? That would help me out. And then I'll go back and I'll fish and I'll make sure that I give you guys some feedback.
Thank you.
Good. I'm going to stop the